This computer. Okay. So let me share. So CLA call. We're gonna do something we haven't done before today. It's actually because it didn't exist until recently. Came about in a conversation that we had with a mortgage company um, about the state of poor financial literacy across their mortgage originators and the fact that they wanted to be better at that. They were kind of wondering how could we measure how good or how bad it actually is. So we started working on something that we're going to play with today. And then I'm going to tell you how it's going to tie into some of the other work that we're doing. So we're going to go through and as a group, I'm going to hit you with financial literacy questions and let you answer those questions, see how you do. And then I'll show you how this thing is designed to work, how the scoring is going to work, and how this is actually going to tie into a couple different things, including consumer lead distribution stuff. So you'll get awarded for having higher competency assessment scores. Um, Before I do that, I want to see one, any burning questions that you might have. And two, wanted to update you on a couple of new things, one or two that I've put in the chats, but also just want to make sure you're just awares. Let me start with any burning questions that you have, thoughts, concerns, issues. Thanks. If you got the survey, hopefully you filled that out. That's helping me a lot with some priority work that I'm doing. Short, two questions, but please, if you didn't get that, let me know. I'll try to get it to you. But anything that jumps out. All right. Okay. I don't know if I'll take that as a win or what, but I'm just going to package it mentally since I'm at the lake on vacation. Ha ha. Well, I tell you, I'm really getting bad at vacations. I gotta practice. Got how to practice. So everybody seeing this screen okay? Okay. So there's a lot of stuff that's kind of happening behind the scenes. We'll see if we chat about it today some, but um, I told you, or I sent out some notes on some of these updated education pages and things like that. There are more that have been added. And don't forget, because I know folks sometimes forget, this is your ability to take that copy branded link and share it as an education piece or whatever. We've got the reverse mortgage book live now. And then with this, you can share this book. And I know Karen said she had some recent success with the book. Is that right, Karen?
Yeah, it was great. She was really appreciative of it, and it really helped a lot.
I like it. We've added a whole new section here at the back. Questions. Is it in here in the back? Wasn't it? Where is it? Wasn't it showing up? It's just about survey stuff and things like that. I don't know why. Maybe I need to refresh this. A couple new calculators, atomic growth. I've done this. This is something that we're going to tie into the AI engine, but if you ever just want to practice the seven-step process, this is basically a seven-step. There's two versions of it, kind of the flat version, which shows you a little bit more of the information here. Thinking about the first four steps are product strategy, amount, and things like that. And this one kind of takes you through quite a little different version of this. But the idea is this is something you can play around and practice. And when we get the large language model, which I've started on, the way I'm working on this right up here at the top, there's going to be a new button. It's called, the Bar Smart AI, and it's going to be the large language model that's trained on the course, the books, and I'm actually working on transcripts from all of these classes that we've done together over the last 10 years because they're actually some of the best content because it's got all the transcripts and the conversations and what we've taught and things like that. So we can train that all up into a model, and you'd be able to click here and it would open up and you'll just be able to chat with it, about anything you're doing, paste in a credit report and say, optimize this, or how would I answer this question or whatever. I have redone this model here. So this has now got the newest version of Gemini. So it works on a much more expanded basis. If someone says, I want to refinance my house, they can say just what it is that they want to do, and this will go through and say, great, based on the question, here's a link to home refinance, and here's the button, and there's also another button here. So it'll give them up to two or three different calculators. And if they just come in with something like debt payoff, what it will do now is it won't ever fail. It will always try to estimate what they might be doing, rephrase that, and then give you two or three options. So this is a new model, but this model here, what I've decided to do, originally I was going to put the Bar Smart large language model in this, but it's just actually you need a much bigger window to be able to talk to it and paste stuff and things like that. So this will just stay more of that consumer, or for you. I mean, I've had people say, don't you have stock returns, right? Yes, and if you just go here and click stock returns, right? There you go. S&P 500 annual returns, rule of 72. And all you got to do is click that button, and that's going to take you right to the calculator. We have 79 calculators now here that are live, right? So this is designed to be a library. This is not like I'm going to take my clients through these calculators. This is your library so that if you have a situation that comes up, I just don't want you to feel like there's ever a situation where I can't have something that I could actually, use for that client conversation. Okay, so this will be framed to the actual calculators. It's trained on the 79 calculators. And I've actually had the AI trained on the calculators to be able to build this other thing, which we're going to do a little bit later today, which is the competency test. And I'll talk to you more about that. But it's actually trained on the calculators, the intent of the calculators, the results of the calculators, and using that, it's building this competency test out so that we can ask and we can actually practice on financial literacy questions. And if you get it wrong, go to the calculator and figure out why you got it wrong. Like, what do I need to know or learn? Sorry, John, I just saw your hand there. What you got?
Actually, I was just going to ask on the seven steps, and I'm almost through it now. What's at the very end? Does it give if let's say we put this in front of a consumer, is it going to get? I know I can see a score building up here, but then does it tell them, okay, so here, does it give them a summary that they can print out for use in talking to us?
No, it actually just takes you through the conversation. But
Okay.
my intent would be
Oh,
if
that's
you were
interesting.
using this behind the scene, like if you wanted to kind of use this as like a prompt as you're talking to someone to say, and I'll get it a little bit more conversational. This is straight out of the book. So I just
Yeah.
converted the book, the seven steps, into an interactive tool, so that you can go through and kind of see like how would we think about this in terms of possibilities, for the payment. You can see here's one. It will save your last, experience based on what you're doing, right? And it's calculating what might be a range. So if you guys give me feedback as you're using it, here's a refi scenario. And then remember the first four steps are really the main steps prior to close. The last three steps are really about what do you do with them post closing to engage them for a long conversation. But we can make this create a really cool printout or something if you want to, have a deliverable there. But I wanted to get it in here because I'd started it before and I thought, this could evolve into something that we use. It's possible this becomes a front end for clients that you could send to them. Right now you could send them this and we actually tie it into the database so they answer the questions and it pulls it into the fast calc so that when they go in and fill it out, it just shows up here, as a client. And then you click on it and it translates all of their stuff into that plan. Because we have all of the questions they're asking, that we're asking in the seven steps is embedded within this process. We would just need to insert their answers in and build a plan for them that you then go in here and start and edit. So different ways this can kind of evolve, but just wanted you to know that some of these new things are here. And again, I know it's a lot. If you haven't been in here for a while and you come in and you're like, what the hell is this? You can go in here and play with it. This was one that if you had a client with a rental property and you're just kind of like, I don't know a lot about rental properties, it's called the rental coach. You just go through and these are questions that you would ask them to frame up the scenario. And then some questions you could ask them, are you familiar with the 3620 and things like that? And then here's some things to think about. Are any of these an option? This is kind of similar to what Dan and Dave and Todd and those guys are doing with their 5 option strategy, but it's a very similar way to just go through and get a conversation going, right, with that particular client. Here are some things for them based on their actual information. You could try to raise your rent. This was what I would look like for that. Refinance to free up some cash, pull some cash out, try to get a higher return, 1031 exchange, sell and invest your money with a financial advisor. So all these are frameworks that just help in a particular situation that you might be in. Okay. Roland said he had a client he was trying to work with on a credit scoring issue. They had low credit score. He's like, how could I use this? I was like, well, you could send this to the client as an educational tool and they can go in here. And he said, how do I help them think about ways to improve their credit score? I'm like, just tell them to click improve credit score and then analyze the score based on what they input above, and it'll give them some ideas. But he had the actual credit report. And so I'm like, okay, then take that credit report, go here, click on AI tools, click on liability advice engine. And then this is what you're going to have inside AI here soon. But this is what you would do. You would just paste that credit report in here and hit the button. Then you'd have a custom scenario for that client on credit scoring that you could send them with that advice. And that's what I'm saying we're going to have here, is that ability for you to go in there and use a calculator or share a calculator or create a plan and also package that with some pretty cool advice. Easily, quickly. Again, you're going to spend more time just looking at the advice and trying to say this is sound and I might tweak it and say this or that, but a lot less time trying to create a deliverable that's going to wow that client and have them go, this isn't helping. Hopefully they'll be able to very quickly see, wow, this is really, really helpful. Okay. Any questions on that before we go in and play around with our competency test and I explain that? Yeah, Kent.
Sorry, I threw it in the chat. If we upload a credit report, Todd, do we have to black out their social security numbers?
You don't have to, because our system is not technically sharing training data. It's a closed, right now, the GPT is a closed GPT. But what I do is when I was using it in our prior relationship, I was just taking a screenshot and because you don't need any of that personal information, it's agnostic to the person. So we actually built a little thing that was just cropping out and just pulling in the actual data. And that's a safer way to do it. Then 100% of that information stays, out of the web.
Thank you.
You got it. All right, let me explain the competency test. So you see this new button here, okay? So don't go do this yourself right now because I want to tell you what this is doing. But when I click the competency test, it is going to automatically load 50 questions. Okay. Right now, I have a repository of 200 different questions. They are about 65% mortgage related and 35% financial literacy related. Okay, meaning wealth and things like that. So anytime you resume, it always remembers where you were at. Okay, so if you come back at any time, if you want to just take a few questions, you can think of this as like in a way, a learning management tool, because if it says if a mortgage rate rises from 6 to 7%, the maximum home price a fixed income buyer can afford generally does what? Increases by 10%, stays the same, decreases by 10 to 12%, decreases by more than 30%. All right, who wants to jump out there and answer this one? John is saying C, Kent saying C. All right, let's see if they're right. Decreases by 10 to 12%. Correct. You get a check mark. It says why? A 1-point increase shrinks the purchasing power by about 10 to 12%. The purchasing power calculator will show this exact loss for a specific rate move. All right. So with every question, it's going to give you feedback. So you're learning from the question, you're learning from the answer. And if you want to explore, if you click explore purchasing power, oh, darn. Oh, it's like, what? Okay. It's going to open that calculator up in a special window for you, just so you can go in and play with it within this context. Okay. So you can play around with, purchasing power and things like that. And with some of these, I'll probably tweak and say, I want you to use this calculator instead. But it's trying to figure out which calculator it thinks is best suited for this question. Now, when I go to the next question, you'll notice that now it gives me another one. But what I want to do is, let's say that I'm in here and I'm actually, someone calls, or I'm working on a refi or whatever, or I'm, using something else, or I'm building a fast calc plan or whatever. Anytime I come back to competency test, it's going to say, do you want to start over? And if you start fresh, it's going to reload 50 questions for you. Okay. But if you continue, it's going to take you right to where you were so that you can continue. Now, here's the cool thing. Every time you finish, so if I go back to the main page, let me refresh it. You'll see that my last attempt, which was yesterday, I ran through the 50, got 46 of 50. So it's constantly working towards your overall score. And your goal is to work to 100. Because once you answer a question twice in two different tests that you've taken, and now it says you clearly know this, you've answered it twice in two different versions where the answers are scrambled, stuff like that, that question is archived and goes away. So you're eventually going to work from 200 questions to no questions. And to do that, you would have to get to 100% attempt rate. So over time, you're going to keep playing around with these scores. And then what the system does is, it actually, on the back end, I've now got a competency score rating that rates everyone just based on how far you've gotten so far. You'll all get to 100% if you do what? Keep asking and keep looking at the questions and then answering and getting them right. But the competency score here is going to be ranked in this way, so that as leads come in and as consumers come in, because we haven't done the advertising for this yet, but we're starting to get consumers coming in here and just signing up and finding us. Once we use our Google AdWords budget, we're going to have potentially 10, 20 consumers a day coming in here and finding us. It's going to automatically assign them based on things like the last time you were in here, your score, things like that. So I've got to figure out a way to automatically route these consumers, and I'm going to reward people that are in here, that are learning, that have done the work to get these leads as they come in. And just so you know, behind the scenes, this is analyzing everything to show across the board every single question, the top ones missed, which ones are. That way, I'll actually be able to know, for me, like, what things should we spend more time on, because it seems like people are having a lot of questions on rental properties or taxes or even, wealth creation. So that way I'm learning. And the other potential I'll see, Trevor, is probably we'll have this in the education pages too. So you could share it with a prospect, a client, someone else, if you wanted to, and they could play around with it if they were interested, or they could use it in some other way, and you would get the results that they do. I've actually already built the architecture where if you share this, it would show up here, and your partner or your client score would show up to the left here. So you could actually see if your client scored a 12 or a 15 and what questions that they really missed and junk like that. Okay. So we're going to go around, play around some questions. Go ahead, Trevor.
I think you're starting to answer my question, but
Yep.
You and I had talked about, just kind of a cool, version of this that helps loan officers out there just kind of assess how much they really know versus just a bunch of, mortgage qualifying stuff.
Yep.
And you're starting to talk about now maybe the consumer. So I was going to ask you my question, and I have an idea that you just made me think of that could be sick, but what is the ultimate purpose you feel of this assessment? And then my idea is, if we're out giving the classes, it'd be really cool to have a much more condensed version that is a You know how we start the consumer class with the quiz? If there was a smaller, shorter, less freaky to the consumer, competency test that would be a super fun either lead in or follow up that's maybe 10, 20, max 25 questions that are really about the borrow smart stuff that we are, ninjas at here. Now that
No,
you've got the infrastructure kind of set up, you know what I mean?
yeah, no, I like it. What we could do is like create a, home buying quiz, reverse mortgage quiz. They could be here, so you could actually click and share it with your branding to somebody. But if you gave it to them and they answered 10 questions and got, four right, that would help to prime them to go, wow, I didn't know a lot of these questions, right? So that could be a way
Yeah.
we could use this. But to your original question, I like this type. I mean, again, school, we learn what you get exposed to stuff and you get tested on it, right? Right now, other than these CLA events and things like that, there's not a way to sort of test competency, see, are you getting better at this? Right? Like I would think if you take this test over time, right, and you see the question again, the next time you're like, oh, I missed that last time, but now I know it and I know why. I get it right. That's going to progressively increase your score, which is increasing your financial competency. So that was the one thing I wanted to do initially. The second thing was also to figure out like there are people that, CLAs that have signed up, they logged in here, they've done two calculators the very first time they logged in, they've never been back, right? I am not going to refer leads to them. I'm going to refer it to somebody that's been in here, that's curious, that's actually, doing the work. So this gives me a way to not just say, have they logged in, but, are they serious? And, I could say, leads only go to people with at least a 50% or 75 or passing 70% financial literacy score, right? So you get rewarded and paid in a way in these assignments and stuff that you might be doing. The third thing, which you're kind of talking about, is the ability to extend this out and possibly like right now, when a client comes in, it takes them through, this little quiz. I mean, this little, thing that takes them through and explains to them, how the thing works and stuff like that. Maybe we want to push these to clients, push these to our partners, and they just get a prompt next time they log in to say, take the financial literacy test, see how you're doing because it's not just testing you, it's framing the question, which may be interesting, FHA streamline, and if you answer it, oh damn, I was trying to answer it wrong, I guess. Let's see. Uh damn. Okay, I'm not even looking. I'm trying to guess. Okay, there we go. Got that one wrong. Right. So it says, hey, the bank takes ownership. That's right. Borrowers can lose or choose between this. All right. That's interesting. And notice what it's saying. Practice with the reverse mortgage book. So it's actually pulling this question from that particular book, and they now learn about a resource that they might not have known about, just like you might suddenly learn about a resource or think about using a resource differently that you might not have thought of otherwise.
Dude, a
Right.
reverse mortgage specific questionnaire would be pretty valuable.
Yeah, I
Sorry,
agree.
Ron's hands up.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ron.
I was just going to say that if Trevor, if you have access, First Home IQ has a real simple consumer question thing too. That's real short, like 5 questions. But the other thing I was going to ask Todd is it going to reset at some point in time as far as being able to look at questions? Because based on what you're saying, at some point we're going to go in there and we're going to get no questions to even look at, talk about, think about, or anything.
That's cool. So right now, if you got all 200 questions correct, meaning you answered those questions at least twice correctly, you would have your competency test would be cleared out and you'd have 100 score, right? So, but that'll
Right.
take a while and we can just keep adding questions as well. It's like, just say, all right, I've got a group now that's getting close to 70-80% complete on these. Let's add another 50 questions or another, because I'm using the Bar Smart AI engine to analyze the calculators and recommend questions that I can then say, that's a good question and add it to the queue. So just adding another 50 or another 50, we can continue to do that as long as folks are playing around with it.
Cool.
All right, so let's play. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to play around with some of these, talk about them. And again, as you're playing with it, if you ever feel like that doesn't seem right, then challenge it and say, hey, I just got a sequence of returns risk question. It didn't seem right. Or I think a calculator that we should reference is this one. It's a better one. Feel free to stream those to me as you see them, but hopefully these will be pretty good. I've been through it a couple times now. So let's say sequence of returns risk matters first. So let's stop there. What is sequence of returns risk? Is this a mortgage question or a wealth question?
Well,
Wealth.
Huh.
All right. And it's saying, when does this matter most? When you're young, in years near retirement, only for bond investors holding long duration positions, or only during periods of high and persistent inflation?
B.
Is that B? All right, B. So sequence of return is what happens to your investments when you start drawing from them. When they're growing, right? They're growing over time and the market's going up and down. But sequence of return says if I were to suddenly retire tomorrow, I really care about what happens next. Because if we have a 30% sell-off over the next 3 years, that sequence of returns is really negative. Versus if we're up 30% over the next 3 years, that's a really positive because it gives me a lot of what? Wiggle room for things that could happen in the future. So this is saying early retirement losses are devastating because the withdrawals lock them in, meaning I'm now selling depreciated assets, right? And it's saying, hey, you want to look at this and kind of model this out? Go look at the Explore the Advanced Retirement Analyzer. So maybe you know this calculator exists, but you haven't explored it yet. Or you know it exists, but you haven't really thought about that issue. I can come over here now if I wanted to and start exploring, like what happens if something really bad happens? What happens? So I can click Monte Carlo simulation, which by the way is designed to look at that. A worst case scenario, a best case scenario. So you see right here, this worst case, if you retired right here and the market then just absolutely tanked on you, see what happens? You run out of money, in this case, in about 3 years.
Huh.
But if the market just did what it typically has done, for a couple of years and then tanks on you, notice what happens. You can still go to 89. But you may not know how to simulate that or may not have thought about it, and maybe you don't care right now. That's okay. But you could come in here and say, well, what are the things that affect, my retirement? Like if I can still get 7 or 8% after I retire, what does that do? Oh, that starts to help. Now, if I do a Monte Carlo simulation and I expect X, what's going to change there? So I'm hoping it'll kind of lead you into some of these things that you may not have played with so far through the actual questions. So here's one. All right, I'm gonna say to everybody, okay, so Troy, you got to answer this one. We're gonna start picking on people. A homeowner with 400,000 in home value and a 200,000 first mortgage applies for a HELOC. At an 85% combined LTV, the maximum HELOC line is roughly. It's a tough one. That's got real math.
Yeah, so I got to get a calculator out here.
Yeah, man, you gotta get calculator. You can keep this is an open book, and you can cheat because we get to use calculators in the real world.
Gotta be D.
140,000.
Don't tell him.
Damn it. He doesn't know how to use a calculator. You guys just have fun. All right. Yep. So 85% times 400, it's 340.
Needed to have a calculator on the side of the question here.
I know. Sorry. Yeah, I'm not going to make it that easy. So minus the 200,000 first means there's still 140 eligible. The simple HELOC calculator runs the CLT math for any inputs. Well, gosh, what's that? So I click on that, and that takes me over to the simple HELOC calculator. And now I could actually go in here and put in the 340 that we just talked about at, let's just see, 8%. If that was a HELOC balance, it was all in a HELOC. I can start to see, well, what does that look like? What does the payment look like? The draw, the payment shock, interest, and stuff like that. Okay. Now, let's say I got distracted. We're on question 15. Someone just called and said, hey, I'm losing a deal to CMG right now. What can I do? And you come over here and you click the CMG HELOC calculator. And I've kind of I've rebranded this just because I've had people say they don't know how to compete with that if they don't have it. Sorry, Karen. Sorry. But this allows you to come in and sort of do the traditional velocity banking, park your paycheck, see the difference. And I've been running, these for something else I'm working on, the HELOC comparison, the velocity banking and stuff like that. So these are new ones that I added recently. So you have them as simulations. And, one of the things I continue to see is in just cash flow, paycheck cash flow, there's a benefit. It's not a huge benefit, but there is a benefit, right? That gap right there is that difference between the paycheck parking and traditional direct repayment of the debt. And of course, some of that's got to do with the actual HELOC rate, because if the HELOC rate's 9%, right, it's going to start. So you can see the numbers are changing. It's going to change that interest, but it still doesn't change a ton, and that can help you in the stuff that you're working on. But now, if I come back over to competency test and I click resume, it came right back to question 16 and says, all right, adding an ADU. Let's see, this one's for Jeff Cruz. Adding an ADU, which stands for accessory dwelling unit, to a primary residence most reliably affects what?
C.
Which one?
Well, B actually.
Yeah, you good. See, so B, boom. An ADU adds rental income and often increases resale value. So it might affect some of these other things, but it's asking, say, what's the real, in this case, the most reliable impact that we would expect?
I would have put C.
Assessment. You would? The assessment basis only?
Yeah, because I might be putting my son in the ADU. That might be my
Yeah.
reason for putting that on.
It didn't specify it's a rental income type of ADU, but the
Yeah,
assumption is.
I'm with you. So I think you should charge him a lot of rent, but that's just me.
Yeah, but I'm in California, so we're always thinking about taxes.
How else is he going to learn, right? All right. So this is this. You can see the category here. This is kind of like investment property. So this is showing you which grouping or calculator group this is coming from. And if I click the additional dwelling unit, and this is one that I just, when I went through and did all these updates and stuff, updated some of these. But this is like if a client they're thinking about building an office behind their house or a rental property on their same property, this goes through and says, all right, these are the questions we got to ask. What kind of rent are you going to get? What's it going to cost to build? What's the current value? What's the future value going to look like? What's the interest rate on the loan that you're going to think about? If you're going to refinance later, what's that going to cost you to refi? And this is trying to go through and do what? Analyze that, see if it's a good deal or a bad deal for you. Okay. Break even rent. This is kind of cool. Carl Spiteri was the one that helped me with this. It's like it goes through and calculates some key things, such as what you're going to have to spend in the future for refi, what you need to get in rent for this to make sense for you. Like this case, you need to get at least $10.97 a month and net out in the same as if you didn't have this property based on the costs and stuff like that. So again, some of this stuff will just lead you to a different question or a different calculator tool. All right, Jackie, a homeowner who plans to sell in 18 months is considering a refinance that saves $250 a month, but costs $7,500 to close. The right call is
not good. Not good, right?
always refinance to lock in the lower rate before the sale. Skip it. Break even is 30 months, then they'll sell before recovering their costs. Refinance only if the rate is 1% better, the old adage that's just ignoring some stuff here, or refinance and ask the lender to amortize the closing costs over 10 years.
Oh my gosh.
So the 250 divided by 7,500 means what?
I know. Well, it seems like 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So always refinance like 2.5. I don't like 2.5 years. If I had somebody that was going to take that long, I would be on the edge of saying, yeah, I don't know if I would do that. Because you don't know. They're not going to be there that long. Skip it.
So,
break even is 30. That's kind of where I
just a little hint.
think I'd go with C. I mean, that's where I would go. Yeah, I'd skip it. If it was over 2 years for a borrower, I'd be like, I don't like it.
Yep.
I wouldn't advise.
Right. And then somebody's like, I've sometimes let's say explore tipping point. I would have gone to advanced break even calculator for this one. But let's just see, it thinks the tipping point is kind of cool. That's not the right calculator. So this is the one thing I've noticed a couple of times. It asks really great questions, but then it's pulling the metadata from this calculator and it thinks it's that. So I'll keep tweaking these. All right, let's see. Karen, the decision to prepay a mortgage versus invest extra cash most directly depends on.
I have to get this so I can read them.
Oh, you're going to make it bigger. Does that help?
After-tax mortgage rate versus investment return, B.
Boom. All right. Prepayment is guaranteed, etc. Explore, repay, or invest if you want to learn more about that. Okay. So you guys kind of start to get the joke here on how this is working. So if this question comes up again, the one she just answered, and it's got different order and stuff like that, and you answer it again and in the different context, then that question gets banked and archived away. You won't see it again. And then next time when you reload, so you could go through and do your 50 or just do 10 here and there when you're in here, you're waiting for somebody to, you're on hold with your local insurance company and your board, and you're like, all right, I'm going to click through some of these. It'll take you back to where you started. Once you finish, it'll lock your score down and it'll show you a progression of all of your scores, and you can see the ones you've missed and stuff like that in the past. And then you could start over and it'll reload and pull in new questions you haven't seen before. You can keep playing around with your questions. All right, let's see. I'm going to pick on Julie. A retiree withdraws from a $1 million portfolio at 4% withdrawal rate. That's your traditional 40K a year. If the market then falls 30% in year one, right? So right after they started doing this, the market just drops 30%, which means their portfolio has gone down to what? About 700,000.
700.
The
Yeah.
sustainable real long-term withdrawal rate becomes what?
B.
Effectively drops because early losses combined with the withdrawals lock the damage. Good. Good job. Nicely done. I thought it was a tough one. I thought you were going to go for A.
I thought she would just say reverse mortgage.
Yeah, just reverse mortgage automatically. Yeah, don't even think about it, right? Good job. So there's the advanced retirement analyzer. So we can go over there and say, well, what does that have to do with that? In this case, this is back to the same thing here, right? I can go through and kind of model, that's another one of those retirement type things. All right, let's see. David Thompson, a borrower with a 760 credit score will typically receive a mortgage rate that is compared to one with 660 score, kind of weird wording, about, I see what they're saying, compared to one with a 660, about 0.5% to 1% lower, about 3% to 4% lower, identical, or about 2% higher.
I'm going to go with A.
A. Boom, look at him. There you go. A 100-point in credit improvement typically moves rate 0.5% to 1%. So where is it getting that from? So this got the new home pre-qual. I might actually have it add to, like some of these, like this could go with the credit scoring education page, or it could go with the pre-qual. So I'll play around with some of these to see, because I think in some cases I wanted to, maybe if there's two, to go ahead and show them both. All right, let's see. Kent, a refinance from 7.5 to 6.5 on a $300,000 loan with a remaining 28-year term saves roughly how much in monthly payment? This is a tough. See if you remember this from the CLA course. We teach every 1% per 100,000 is equal to X. So
I'll go with B.
you got it. So remember, in the course we talked for every 1% in rate per 100,000, it's about $80 to $85 a month in payment. So 80 per 100,000 would be 80 times 3. That's close to 200, right? So 1 point rate cut on 300,000 typically saves about $200 a month. Explore the home refinance calculator. Cool. On a rental property, let's see. Okay, Laura's still there. He's still there. Okay, Dave, pull you in here. On a rental property, cash on cash return is calculated by dividing annual cash flow by total cash invested, annual rental income by the property's current value, annual mortgage payment by the property's gross annual rental income, or net operating income by the total purchase price. He's gotten a hard one.
I'm going to go with D.
Is this me?
No, David Marquardt.
I'm going to go with D.
David sweating it. No, he's not.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I said I'm going to go with D.
Go with D. All right. Boom. All right. That was
I
tough.
flipped between it, right?
Net operating, so it's actual annual cash flow by total cash flow. So if you've got 30,000 coming in total cash flow and you invested 30,000, right, then that's going to give you your cash on cash flow. So it's explaining here cash on cash equal annual pre-tax cash flow divided by total cash invested. Now I can click practice with the advanced rental analyzer and go there and play around and see how that actually works out. Right. And to do that, you might look at what is your down payment? That's your initial, in this case, cash that you're putting into the property. Your cash on cash return is going to be a function of that. And up here, you've got operating income, gross rent, cap rate, cash on cash. So currently, this is a negative 4.88 cash on cash, which means they put 70 in it, but their current cash flow, if I go down here before taxes, is going to be what? Around 18,000. So you can see why this is like they're not even getting close to where they need to be to have a real positive cash on cash return. Good one. To qualify for a HECM, let's see, we'll give this one to Lauren if she's there. To qualify for HECM, federal insurance reverse mortgage, the youngest borrower must generally be at least what? This is one where I think, oh, Julie wants to answer that one.
I got that.
All right, Dave's got that one. I'll go back since you're unmiked. Dave, what's the general?
62.
62. Boom. Explore reverse HECM refi. You can come over here and it takes you to the HECM calculator. Cool beans. We have a big project that we just started that some of you guys are going to all be involved on, but it's a very known influencer who's written 7 books in the financial planning space, has a huge following, he has 18,000 insurance agents, financial planners that read his weekly blog post. He does one post every week, and he's agreed if we can, he hates reverse mortgages. He just thinks they're the worst thing ever. And I've been talking to him about it. He said, all right, so he gave me his reverse mortgage course. We're going to update it for him because he's got a lot of things in there that are old. He's reading the reverse mortgage interactive book, and he's offered to, if we can convince him that it's actually a valid strategic tool on a couple of case studies, then he'll write a fair piece to his folks. And then I showed him the reverse mortgage calculators, which he'd never seen, just these, the quick calculators. He's offering to do a piece to have people financial advisors come sign up here to connect with us, which would be huge because he has got a massive following, and I call him the curmudgeon because he's an attorney, so he's a financial advisor and attorney by nature, so he just assumes everything is bad for people and that everyone's trying to screw everybody. So we're gonna convince him and turn him around and get him promoting what we're doing. All right, let's see. I'm going to come back around here to Chris. Chris, when pre-qualifying for a mortgage, lenders typically want your total monthly debt payments, including the mortgage, to stay below what share of your gross monthly income?
Charlie C.
Damn, that's good, man. Look at that. The back-end debt-to-income ratio for most conventional loans is typically capped around 43%. Well done. And then there's your pre-qual calculator. All right. Homeowner. Let's see who's out there. I mean, Trevor. He's forgotten all this stuff because now he's just a big wig. executive. A homeowner refinances at 5.5% and frees up $400 a month. And he's got to decide whether to apply this to principal on the mortgage or invest in the market. The decision pivots on what? The current price of the S&P 500, whether the borrower prefers tax-deferred to savings accounts, the lender's policy on accepting voluntary after-tax mortgage rate versus expected after-tax return.
Come on. D.
Would you say? Would you say
Yeah,
B?
come on.
Did you say B?
No whammies.
Look at that. Yeah, look at that.
Still got it,
You
baby.
still got it after all these years of senior corporate executing.
I might not know the 43% part, but I know all the financial literacy stuff.
Good for you. I like it. All right. The HELOC accelerator strategy reduces mortgage interest primarily by what? Let's see. So I come back to Karen on this one. Give her see how she does. Oh, there's Lauren's back now. All right, Lauren, you're on this one. The HELOC accelerator strategy reduces mortgage interest primarily by replacing the mortgage with a lower rate HELOC. This is interesting. This might be a trick question. Parking income to lower average daily balance, using HELOC's funds to invest in the equity stock markets, lowering the credit score.
That's B.
B. You got it. The velocity banking idea is right, because this is what you don't know. If it's lower, that would probably do it, but we know most of the time HELOCs are going to be higher. So the key concept around these accelerators is parking that income, and I would say parking excess cash, because that's what really makes the thing work. Free cash flow, cash, and then lastly, just the parking really makes the difference. Oh, got another one. Boy, it likes these velocity banking. Velocity banking uses a HELOC. Using a HELOC is most likely to fail when the borrower has only a moderate amount of equity in the home, the mortgage rate is slightly lower than the HELOC, the home is appreciated significantly, or the borrower lacks positive monthly cash flow. I'll give you that one too, Lauren.
D, let's go.
Let's go. Again, she's on fire. Look at that. Yeah, absolutely. And then you can explore that calculator. So you can see these are kind of fun because they're teaching you things, they're reinforcing stuff you already know, but they're also directing you to different places. So, I can see us going into a real estate office and saying, hey, who'd like to go through and do a financial literacy quiz? And we have maybe a group of these questions focused on purchase properties, right? Or purchasing a house in a similar way. All right, let's see. I'm going to go back to Shane. Shane answered one yet? I don't even know if he's answered one yet. Saver A invests $5,000 a year from 20 to 35 and stops. Never does it again. Saver B invests $5,000 a year from 35 to 65, 30 years versus 10 years. At a 7% return, who has more at age 65?
I believe it's saver A because of the longer period of time of compounding.
Ding, ding, ding. Good job. Right? So that's classic time value of money. Compounding rewards early contributions disproportionately. I was doing something on the fast calc the other day after, I think it was Chris or someone had sent me an interest only loan. I started playing with the AM tables and junk like that. And I was trying to figure out, how is it so much more savings in this scenario than this scenario? They should be the same, because the interest rate, I was using the 7% as the mortgage rate and 7% the investment rate. But in that particular example, in one scenario, they were putting money in the investment account, and in one, they were paying off the debt faster. So once the time period was up and they were both paid off, that bigger amount compounding at 7 was still creating a huge, wealth difference over that 30-year period. And even me, I had to stop and go, that just can't be right. And I was chatting with the ad going, this can't be right. There's no way this is $360,000 better for this client, because the 7% rate and the 7% mortgage rate and the savings rate are the same. It was like, you're forgetting about, front loaded blah, 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 because the savings started for this person earlier and this person doesn't start saving till year 15. So therefore, all that compounding over the next 15 years was it was a $300,000 difference. And I was like, wow, even seeing it, I didn't believe it and had to go back to to my little chat buddy and say, help me understand this. Am I just flaking out? Which I was, by the way. That's not unusual. Okay. Uh, when comparing, let's see, John, I'm gonna come back to you because you're looking sleepy. When comparing three refinance offers with different rates, cost, and terms, the single best metric for borrower planning is to keep the long term is the lowest note rate, regardless of closing costs, the lender with the smallest origination charge, the total cost of credit over the holding period, the APR shown on 3 pages of this is interesting. This is a tough one.
Mhm. I'd like to phone a friend.
Okay.
I'd like to bring in my young Padawan, Julie Crittenden.
Okay. All right, Julie. He's phoned a
Wow.
friend.
Wow, John. All right, let me look at this. I was wondering when John was going to get called on. Everybody's awesome. Okay. I'm going to go with the C.
I agree. We'll go with C.
Dang, ding, 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 ding. Lifetime costs over the expected hold period dominates your headline rate or APR when comparing structurally different options. Use the advanced compare mortgages calculator to run these different scenarios. Good job. Well done. All right. So now we've invoked the new phone a friend. We can ask the audience. I guess we should start, going the full route. On the same loan amount, switching from a 30 to a 15-year, typically what? Cuts the monthly mortgage payment in half, raises your payment 45%, but cut interest 65, leaves the monthly payment roughly unchanged, doubles the total interest paid on the loan. Let's see. What victim? All right, Dave Thompson. This one's for you, buddy.
Let's go with B.
B. Ding, 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 ding. Good job. Explore mortgage term. You know what I was just thinking? This is like crazy and probably a ridiculous amount of work, but the ability to share these questions on social media, like, like just push it out to your Facebook or whatever. Say, I was recently doing a literacy test and I saw this question. And I'm surprised at how many people misunderstand this one. What would you say? Because I see these come up sometimes and they're very engaging. I even find myself like, okay, I want to hit the button to see if I'm right and see what other people said. But these are the kind of things that might get someone thinking about a 15-year fixed and calling you or whatever. So maybe that.
Well, it's funny because the previous one, the number of people would be like, oh, APR, of course, because that's what it's sold as this. Oh, this is the way you shop to compare loans is APR.
Yeah, and one of the other questions that I was on the fence about, I was like, had to go back and forth, and the answer was APR because the other options really didn't tell you much about your true cost. So in that case, APR was the best way to sort it because that APR, EPR, they're kind of, similar in the way they give you a little bit of guidance. The largest
Todd,
single fact, yeah.
Do you remember when we spent a good amount of time on the how the consumer controls what cost of borrowing really is on a mortgage, right? And you throw an extra couple $100 and we were able to calculate that. I assume we have that calculator somewhere out of the 79.
Oops, gosh. Yeah, that is I got a couple of different versions. The rate reduction allows you to put in so if you say I want to pay 500 extra a month, I've got an effective 4.269 rate now. So this allows the consumer to dial this in. I had this conversation with a financial advisor, a friend of mine not too long ago, and he said that's like the most mind-blowing thing I've ever heard. Because he said, I've never thought to tell my client that the rate they just got is not their fixed rate for 30 years because it's called fixed rate. And it's like if I just told them if you really want a 5%, all I had to do was put in the 5% and tell them if they put $348.39 a month extra, they've got a 5% rate.
Yep.
And these
I
are
was thinking
things
about based on what Karen just said.
Yeah.
Like that'd be a cool quiz question. Everybody's focused on APR. and Karen comes out, or any of us, right? And we post like, you know, how much does it lower your effective interest rate on your mortgage if you add an extra $100, right?
Damn, what if we had the question in social media and when they click it, if they get it wrong, it had the calculator link. And when they click the calculator link, it takes them to your page to sign
Oh,
up
you
to get access to
stop
the
it.
calculators.
Getting
And now
crazy.
you're like getting consumers who want to see the calculator and they're logging in and becoming part of your community. That almost feels like cheating. I'm gonna write that down.
I agree, though. This concept right here is so crazy foreign for most people. They've never even thought of this and the control, the power they have over the interest rate. No other lenders talk about it.
Nope.
So to me, that's like one of the coolest questions you could be asking out there because
And a great
it's teaching
educational
something
thing.
really
And this is the
cool.
kind of thing
Yeah.
you could throw on, social media as a quick education to say, do you know you control your interest rate? Let me show you an example, and you could walk them through a couple different examples.
I
You
gotta
can.
say,
Todd,
as
if you put
a
a calculate, if you put a link in there to another calculator, it's going to actually minimize your presentation on social media.
Yeah, they don't like you going away from their platform.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The
No,
only
that
drawback.
that is true. You can get around with that just by putting, your web, putting in your web address like as an image or whatever.
DM me for the tool.
Yeah,
Mm.
you got a tool for that.
What was Karen going to say?
Well, you can say,
She was going to respond to that.
I was just gonna say that it is fun, like all of this kind of stuff, because I had a Zoom call this morning with a gal who only finally set up a Zoom time with me because her mother kept pushing her and pushing her. And she kind of had the attitude of like, I'm already pre-qualified with the local credit union, so what do I need you for? And we started talking and, the amount she was pulling out. And I just started asking her a bunch of questions and getting through. And, well, have you thought about, and all of a sudden she goes, oh my gosh, why that, nobody knows that stuff. Why don't I know this stuff? It was so much fun to just walk through it with her and watch it and watch her total attitude change. Like, man, I should have called you a month ago when my mother first told me to.
Nice.
I love it. When you watch somebody kind of just suddenly go, oh, wow, I didn't, that's why we say if everything you knew about, your borrowing or your house was not true, when would you want to know about it?
Mhm.
Like 10 years from now? No, you want to know about it right now. You can't do anything about what's happened, but if you learn something new and you're operating based on, mistake or misinformation, this is the time to figure it out. Cool. All right. So I know we're at time here. Ron, Ron, go with the last questions. Yes, sir.
So on your on the wealth questions that are coming right from the book,
Yep.
it'd be cool if you could put a link to the portion of the book where you can learn more.
Actually, I don't have any from the book. They're all from the calculators right now because I wanted them to always link to a calculator. But when this Bar Smart LM is ready, and because it's going to be embedded, I'm actually building it into the data structure, so it's part of this app. So it's fast and it just stays. You just ask, and it's actually working right within the database here. Then we could actually have it build questions from that. It's actually a good way to add and expand over time. It's just I could say build 100 questions from the book or 100 questions from the course and things like that, and we could pull them in. But that would definitely need to be for just you guys, not consumers or partners and stuff, because they may have no idea what the hell we're talking about, right? I like it. All right, groovy. So now you're free to go in, play around with a competency test, start working on your scores and stuff like that, and just play around, have fun. Okay. And then we're on for fast, I think next Friday. John, no, is just now realized he's got a lot of work to do to pull something out of the hat there.
Or, of course, I'll be in New Orleans at a wedding, but we'll talk later on, Todd.
Okay, great. So it looks like Todd will be leading the fast call next week, which is cool.
Todd's
now
got
you
some
have
lot
to
of work.
prepare for it.
And Todd's got a
Now
lot of work
I've
to
got to
prepare for
prepare.
it.
You
Well
like how I did
played.
that?
Well played, man. That was ninja right there. Totally ninja. All right. Well, holler if you have anything in particular, and stay frosty.
It is holiday weekend next
Kent,
weekend,
you got a
Todd.
question?
Make sure everybody remembers that.
Oh, it is
We'll be-
next week. Damn it. I thought it was the 29th, Todd. So my bad. All right.
Next weekend's Memorial Weekend.
That's right.
Oh, that's true.
You have one of those weird 5-week months.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Todd, I got a question that may benefit everybody. Will you go to the CMG calculator?
Oh, let's see. I turned off my thing, didn't I? Oh no, is it still on? Okay.
We're
HELOC. Right there, CMG HELOC.
When you were talking earlier, is the difference between the light blue line and the darker blue line paycheck parking, or is it a traditional payment adding the free cash flow?
It should be so the blue is the HELOC only, the green is standard with free cash flow. So you'll notice like this is standard with free cash flow, everything's going towards the mortgage. So it's going to be faster, but you don't get the liquidity in the same way because you're paying everything into the mortgage. Now, if let's go extreme here.
so that's just straight prepayment then.
That's
The
correct.
green line.
I think so. Yeah.
Here's why I'm
Why
asking.
is it not updated?
I played with it, and in every case, the all-in-one was worse, which begs the question, why would anybody ever do velocity banking?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I'm working on this other project, which I told you about with this debt acceleration. And so I'm running these different models and Greg Knight, who you guys may know, he's a CLA and works for Shred or was it Shred? Or no, Reverse Your Mortgage or did, but he's there in this, he's done 600 or 700 of these, and he and I've talked a couple times about the same topic. And it's like just the payment parking alone, it doesn't have, it helps, but if your HELOC is at 8 and your mortgage is at 6 and you're paying 2% more for the HELOC to do the drawdown, by the time you do the payment parking, it doesn't really do much. It kind of nets it out. You really need to have a lump sum, a larger piece of cash, because then if you put $100,000 in there, that you're not using, and you can pull 100 out, you're buying that effective rate down now to 4%. So it's much lower than the 6 you've got, and you start to see the compounding and stuff. So we'll probably expand on this a bunch. And then when I show you the stuff I've been working on with the debt done date, it's actually going to optimize for all those different strategies to see which one's most effective or efficient for that person based on are you going to use a HELOC? Are you going to pay straight? And this actually going to calculate HELOC, straight repay, blah, the different scenarios so that you can kind of say, well, in your case, you're better off just doing this. In which case you could have the HELOC as a liquidity tool, but you would just straight pay into the mortgage for efficiency and use the HELOC as a side fund. But if you want to have them combined, that's where the CMG product's really cool. If you want to have one first mortgage position with them all combined. But if you're starting at 8 and you were at 6, it's not gonna be as exciting for you unless you got some real cash to put in there and get that, that starting rate down.
So to do that latter scenario, what you just articulated, that's what you'd put the 100,000 in there where it says initial down payment, correct?
That's correct. So this is where you're saying, all right, I got 100K in my checking account right now that I'm not
There you
using
go.
at all. It's like a savings account that I'm not using. Well, if I did that, then suddenly using the HELOC strategy is going to make a much bigger difference. Even at 12%, you can see it's really, pretty exciting there.
And then you're into the EPR question of would that 100,000 have been better off put in X,
That's
Y,
right.
Z?
That's right.
Okay,
Because if
thank
your
you.
HELOC's at 8, then you got to figure out is a 9,000 going to be better here, or should I have it, earning 8 or whatever.
Thank you.
And this is like your transfer limit. And by the way, I'm trying to always do tooltips on these things. So if you're not sure, just always hit the tooltip, and it's going to help give you an explanation of what these things are. So you can see when you do that down payment, this is not comparing it to investing. It's just saying if you had 90,000 you weren't using, yes, you can save 440,000 interest and be debt free right here in about 6 years in this using this strategy, which is cool. But Trevor had someone that was competing, I think, right? And they were able to look at this and see it, again, you could see if it's really going to help them or if there's other way to do this. And this one does have I'm kind of experimenting with this. Notice where it says client PDF. So I'm trying more and more to create a model where for these different calculators, if you want, you can build a really cool, simple, PDF for these things. There's different ways to do it, but it's getting better at it to where it can go through and kind of optimize the data. So more and more, you'll start to see these client PDF buttons popping up within the calculators. Cool.
There's so many variables, though, that to take into consideration with that CMG. I mean, obviously, I'm fully invested in that calculator
Oh
because
yeah.
I want to I want to prove to myself because I've always thought one thing. I mean, I used to sell the You First Financial money merge account back in 2006, 7, 8. I mean, and that literally was the HELOC strategy because they didn't have access to the mortgage tool, the all-in-one. So wouldn't that be something if that ended up being the better strategy all along? Right.
Absolutely. And that's the part where the counseling and the coaching will come in, because for certain people, it's a fairly easy calculation, but for certain people, they're really going to want your advice just to be able to walk through and know enough to say, well, let's look at this situation. Are you working with a financial advisor? No, I'm not. Okay. Then you're going to be less likely to have success investing and staying disciplined. This is really about debt repayment for you. Or you have the conversation, they're like, yeah, I got a financial advisor. He's done great for us, blah, blah, blah. You're like, okay, well, let's get them involved in the conversation. And I'm going to show you a strategy, one where you repay the debt, one where you create a side fund. And now let's tie in that financial advisor and have a conversation there, right? All righty. Stay frosty, everyone. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, Todd.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
guys. Bye.
Thank you, Todd.
Yeah, my pleasure.